What's up, Point? Pastor Matt here. You guys got those connection books on Sunday, and as you were looking through them, flipping through them, somebody happened to get across to the Ten Commandments. And as they were flipping through the Ten Commandments, they started looking, and they asked the question, point teaching, and the question is this, point teaching, why are there two commandments about coveting, one for houses and one for everything else? Seems redundant if you only have 10 rules to begin with. Great question. And as you guys asked that question, I remember back to seminary and remembering there was a reason why the Ten Commandments were ordered that way and why that one pops up like that and what the difference was, but I couldn't remember. So you guys have sent me on a hunt, and this is what I found. So a little background of the Ten Commandments. If you're looking at the Ten Commandments in the book of Deuteronomy or the book of Exodus, then you're going to see that there's actually about 12 if you were to go one for one, but they were always known as the 10 words. So the 12 commandments deal with that prologue, which is this: I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. So it begins with this little gospel message. And then there's also two different texts in there about having no other gods and not making graven images. So, and then two texts on coveting. So there's actually there's 12 things if you look at it. So here's what a lot of different people have done. Back in time, to make it 10 commandments, different groups have done different things. For those of you that might have been familiar with like a Reformed tradition, they took and the big question was, what are you going to do with the graven images commandment? Are you going to lump it together with one of the other commandments? Are you going to break it up and give it its own commandment spot? And so there's a lot of you who might have been coming from Reformed traditions, and they would have said, no other gods, and then number 2 was no graven images, and number 3 was don't use God's name in vain. Whereas, and then number 4 being Sabbath, and then all the way down to number 10, the coveting commandment was just one commandment. Whereas Luther, when he was doing his 10 commandments, he went with more of a Catholic look to it, and he said no other gods and graven images are going to be the same thing. Because in our culture, you know, if you have a graven image, it was another god, and it just seemed to fit for Luther. And so what Luther said was, we're going to keep those two together, and then he made number 2, keeping the Lord's name holy, and then number 3, the Sabbath, and then he started jumping in to the ones that deal with your neighbor, and he went all the way down to number 10 and 9 and 10, and he split up the coveting commandment into 2. And what Luther says about his splitting the coveting commandment up into 2, this is why. Luther, if you guys ever get a chance to get a small catechism, or you can go online to lcms.org and they'll have some of this stuff on there. The small catechism, some of those things, or just Google Luther small catechism and it'll give you some explanations in the Ten Commandments. Luther says this about not coveting. He says it means in number 9, when it says you shall not covet your neighbor's house, we should fear and love God so that we do not scheme to get our neighbor's inheritance or house, or get it in a way which only appears right, but help and be of service to him in keeping it. So helping your neighbor keep his physical things, okay? But then he split it up with 10, where he says, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife or his manservant or his maidservant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. And this is why he said that. He said we should fear and love God so that we do not entice or force away our neighbor's wife, workers, animals, or turn them against him, but urge them to stay and do their duty. So he's saying if you have this neighbor, you shouldn't want to steal any of their property, get it from them in a dishonest way. And he says not only that, you shouldn't take away the people that are connected to him on purpose, like his wife that he's coveted with in marriage. You know, you shouldn't try and take him away. You shouldn't have an affair with somebody else's wife, basically, you know, entice him away from him. Or his employees entice him away for no apparent reason. So that's kind of what Luther is saying. It's like one has to do with inheritance and stuff, and one has to do with the people and things that could easily be pulled away. Maybe not by your direct doing, but by something you do. So that's probably the best explanation I have. And so keep in mind, he did this, ordered them in a simple way so that we could remember them and we could start to live by them. But that's why there's those different orders, because we had to take 10 or 12 and put them into 10, because they were always known as the 10 words, and people weren't really sure exactly how they broke them up, so they decided to break them up in the best way for teaching and pointing people to God. So, great question, you guys. Man, that one stumped me. But I want to thank you, and I also want to throw a shout out to Dr. Charles Arend and his book, That I May Be His Own, because in the appendices of there is where I found the answer, and believe me, I was hunting. commenting. So till next time, guys, keep texting those questions. We love it, and we do it every single Sunday at the Point, 9 and 10:15 a.m. at the Regal Cinema in Westtown Mall. Hey, what's up, you guys? This is Pastor Matt coming from my office. I know it's Starbucks. I don't really have an office, but I have a Starbucks, so don't be jealous. I just wanted to come and bring you guys this week's update. Hey, we've officially cracked the $3,000 mark in our Habitat fundraising, and man, that is just insane. We're barely over 2 months into this thing, and we've already raised $3,330 towards our Habitat house. We're working towards that $10,000 goal. Thank you so much for being a part of the events, and be looking because we'll have more coming. And if you guys are wondering what's the best way to keep up with the Point updates, stuff like that, jump on our Facebook and our Twitter. You can fan us on Facebook, The Point Knox, or you can follow us on Twitter, The Point Knox also. And that's a great way to keep updates. But you know what? That's also a great way to share the Point with your friends. Jump on there, fan us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, repost some of the updates. If you see an event coming up, post an event, because you never know when somebody might want to come out to something like a cornhole tournament or a First Friday. So reposting what we're doing. Also, let people know you're coming out to church. Just be like, hey, going to the Point. You can check in on a Sunday. It's great. Use social media as a way to share your faith and share the Point with people. It's a fun way to do it. I know I do it. I probably tweet a lot. Some of my tweets are funny, so not so funny, but just share the ones you like. So do that. Fan us on Facebook, The Point Knox. And hey, guys, this weekend, I'm excited. This is probably going to be one of my most powerful Galatians weekends of all. It's 10 weeks into this thing. We're in chapter 5. And if you guys want a little sneak peek, go to chapter 5, verses 13 through 15. Because this week we're going to be talking about some pretty heavy stuff. It's going to be awesome. But come out this week. The Point meets at 9 and 10:15 a.m. at the Regal Cinema in Westtown Mall. And if you guys get a chance, turn on the X, because we got a new Point spot that I think is going to crack you up. All right, guys, hope you're having a great week, and I'm looking forward to seeing you this Sunday, 9 and 10:15 a.m. at the Regal Cinema in Westtown Mall.